Hi everyone. Today we're taking a closer look at one of the most iconic and powerful quotes in history. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. You've probably heard this phrase before, maybe as a motivational line or even in a history class. But do you know where it came from or why it was said? This quote was delivered by Franklin D. Roosevelt during his inaugural address in 1933. At the time, the United States was in the middle of the Great Depression, a period of massive unemployment, financial collapse, and widespread uncertainty. Fear was everywhere, and it was paralyzing the country. In his very first speech as president, Roosevelt used these words to inspire hope and confidence, reminding Americans that fear itself was their biggest enemy. It's a simple idea, but one with incredible depth and historical significance. Imagine what life was like back then. 1 in 4 Americans was unemployed. Banks were failing, and people had lost their life savings overnight. Families stood in bread lines just to get a single meal. The fear wasn't just about money, it was about survival. People were terrified of what tomorrow might bring. Roosevelt understood that before he could fix the economy, he needed to address this paralyzing fear. And that's exactly what he set out to do with his now famous speech. On March 4, 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt stepped up to deliver his inaugural address. The nation was desperate for leadership, and Roosevelt knew his words needed to do more than outline a plan. They needed to reignite hope. Early in his speech, he said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." This wasn't just a catchy line. It was a direct message to the people. Fear is our greatest obstacle. Fear stops us from thinking clearly and taking action. And most importantly, fear isn't as insurmountable as it feels. Think about the context. The Great Depression was an unprecedented crisis. Millions of Americans were out of work, entire industries had shut down, and people were losing faith in the government and each other. Roosevelt's speech wasn't just addressing economic policy, it was addressing the emotional state of the nation. Fear had taken hold, and it was contagious. It kept people from spending money, investing, or even believing that things could get better. Roosevelt understood that tackling fear was the first step toward recovery. Let's take a closer look at his words. When Roosevelt said fear itself, he wasn't denying that the country faced real challenges. What he was saying is that fear amplifies those challenges. Think about it. Fear often makes us freeze. It clouds our judgment. It makes problems seem bigger than they actually are. Roosevelt was essentially saying, yes, we're in a tough situation, but fear isn't helping, it's making things worse. And this idea isn't just true for nations, it's true for all of us in our personal lives. This quote became a rallying cry because it reminded people of their strength. Roosevelt was calling on Americans to rise above fear and focus on action, no matter how small those actions might seem. And here's the incredible part. It worked. Over the next few years, Roosevelt introduced policies like the New Deal, which helped create jobs, stabilize the economy, and restore confidence. But it wasn't just government programs that made the difference. It was a shift in mindset. People began to believe in progress again. They started to take risks, invest, and rebuild their communities. That shift in perspective, away from fear and toward hope, was the foundation for recovery. So, what can we learn from this? Roosevelt's quote isn't just about history, it's a lesson for all of us. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, but it doesn't have to control us. Instead of letting fear paralyze us, we can confront it. We can break it down, look for solutions, and take small steps forward. That's how progress happens, both for a nation and for individuals. Let's bring this idea into today's world. Fear hasn't gone away, it's part of the human experience, but how we handle it determines our success. Think about some of the challenges we've faced recently. The global pandemic brought fear of illness, job loss, and uncertainty about the future. Economic recessions create fear about financial security, investments, and retirement. On a personal level, fear can show up in our careers, relationships, or even when we're trying something new. In all of these cases, the lesson from Roosevelt's quote is the same. Fear itself can be a bigger problem than the challenge you're facing. So how do we deal with fear? Let me share 3 steps inspired by this quote that can help you face fear head-on. 1. Acknowledge the fear. Start by naming it. Often, just identifying what you're afraid of can make it seem less overwhelming. For example, if you're afraid of losing your job, break it down. Are you worried about finances, finding a new position, or how it might affect your family? Naming the fear makes it more manageable. 2. Focus on what you can control. Fear often comes from focusing on things outside our control. Roosevelt's message was about taking action. Even during the Great Depression, people found small ways to move forward. Ask yourself, what's one step I can take today? It could be updating your resume, saving a little extra money, or learning a new skill. 3. Take small, consistent actions. Fear feeds on inaction. Once you've identified what you can control, start small. Progress, even in tiny steps, builds confidence and diminishes fear. Throughout history, some of the greatest achievements have come from people who faced fear but didn't let it stop them. Think about explorers venturing into unknown territories, inventors working on breakthroughs despite the risk of failure, everyday people rebuilding their lives after losing everything. These stories remind us that fear is a part of progress. Without it, we wouldn't grow. Roosevelt's quote captures this perfectly. Fear is a challenge we all face, but we don't have to face it alone, and we don't have to let it win. I want you to think about this. What's one fear that's been holding you back? Maybe it's fear of failure, rejection, or uncertainty. Whatever it is, take a moment to write it down and ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today to move past it? If you feel comfortable, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, and who knows, you might inspire someone else watching this video to face their own fears. Roosevelt's words may have been spoken in 1933, but their meaning is timeless. Fear is a universal experience, but it doesn't have to define us. Whether it's on a national scale or in your personal life, remember, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. By confronting fear, breaking it down, and taking action, we can move forward, even in the toughest of times. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on why Roosevelt's words continue to resonate today. They remind us that fear is often rooted in uncertainty, but it's through action, no matter how small, that we regain control and confidence. When Roosevelt addressed the nation in 1933, he wasn't promising an instant solution. He was inviting people to shift their mindset. And that's something we can all take to heart. Whether you're facing personal challenges, professional uncertainties, or even global crises, the message remains the same. Fear thrives in the absence of action. But when you take even one small step forward, you weaken fear's grip. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video gave you some inspiration and practical tools to face your fears. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos exploring history's wisdom and how it can empower us today. Until next time, remember, fear doesn't stand a chance against action and hope. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.